Hello, everyone. It's Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's time for another Tuesday tip video. Today, we're going to be learning a new technique, and this is called whitewashing. I'm very excited to teach you this technique. We're going to be using a white craft pad. Two different techniques you're going to learn today because Tuesdays are all about lots of tips. You're going to really enjoy this technique, and I've got two fabulous and beautiful cards to share with you as well. So, are you ready to learn what I'm talking about when I say whitewash? Okay, let's head over to my stamping table. I'll show you what I mean. I'm so excited to teach this technique to you. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So listen, we're going to be using the white craft pad. This pad is a little bit different. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but I want you to see these fantastic cards and how I was able to use that ink pad in kind of a unique way. So you can see it's going to be a really fun way to add kind of shadow and depth to a card. And then I'm going to teach you this technique. I thought it was great with the sweet citrus stamp set, and we're going to create some really great pith on our lemons there. So I've got two techniques to teach you. I'm going to start with this sympathy card here. I'm going to use the Desert Details. I thought this flower was just so pretty, and you notice it's one of the distinctive stamps, so there's a lot of detail already in it. That worked really, really well for this technique. So we're going to start with a piece of basic gray cardstock. My friends, this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm also going to be using the basic gray ink pad. So what I'm going to do is very quick and easy. I'm going to take that flower. I'm going to stamp one down here. Look, it's beautiful just like that. But I'm going to stamp two here on the sides, the left side. And then I'm going to add one more right about here up at the top. Now, before I get too far, I want you to kind of see just how much of a difference adding that white craft pad makes to this project, right? It really is beautiful. I'm really psyched about teaching you this. We're going to start with that craft pad. And one thing you do need to know about this ink pad is the refill comes with it. This ink pad is very different. First of all, this is very spongy. It's not like our other ink pads, and this ink is also very, very thick. When you get this ink pad, it's going to be empty. There won't be any ink on it. But like I said, you get the refill. Shake this up really good, not as much as I did there. I mean, really shake that up. And you're going to then be able to ink up your ink pad. Just add a lot of the ink in there. You can take the back of a plastic spoon, you can take your bone folder, and you're going to spread all that in there and get it nice and thick. But because you have this refill, there's some other things we can do with it too, and I'll show you that technique here at the end. All right, so what we want to do is we want to use this ink pad now as a palette, as an ink palette. And you guys have seen me use this technique before. I'm just going to take a clear block and I'm going to ink it up. Yep, I've got my little ink palette. My ink pad is perfectly safe. I don't have to worry about hitting it with anything. I have plenty of ink right there. Now, I think right now you can see it is a very thick ink. The blender pens, this is the magic, my friends, the blender pens. Now, if you happen to have a blender pen that is dried out, remember, this is just kind of like a marker. A dried up blender pen is perfect for this technique. So don't throw out that blender pen you might have that's dead, because you're going to want it for this technique. So here is my blender pen, and honestly, I think this is one of my fresh ones. But I'm just going to start down here, and you see I'm just kind of picking up some ink. And what I want to do in this flower, anywhere where the lightest area is, I'm just going to brush on some of this white ink. Do you see how it gets lighter as I go? And this is actually even going to dry a little bit lighter. So I'm just, you see I'm kind of moving that blender pen around because I have ink all around it. And if you touch some of that darker area, that is fine. That's not going to be a problem at all. I can come in and just keep picking up more ink, but the bulk of it, I want it to be there on the edge of these flowers. All right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep coloring. I'll speed up my camera so you can kind of watch this come to life. All right, and that flower is done. I mean, it really was just that simple. Now, a couple tips I want to tell you. don't sit here and play with it too long because this is wet. We don't want to start lifting off the fibers of the cardstock. So kind of once you get it on there, do what you need to do. And if you need to blend a little bit, that's okay, but don't keep going over the same spot too often. But you can see it just adds a really great shadow and this kind of almost three-dimensional as it pops right off. Now, I'm not going to color everything in because I do have my sample that's all done. But you can see how I did my sentiment here. It was very easy. I just have a 4 by 1 1/8 inch piece of the basic gray cardstock. I'm going to use the stamp set Go-To Greetings. I thought of thinking of you would be great for a sympathy card. And really, I think this card looks so beautiful as a sympathy card. So I'm just going to go right directly into that white ink pad. And look at that. It just, it's just very soft and pretty. Now, you guys know most of the time we would heat emboss this. And that is beautiful. If you want to add some clear or white embossing powder to it, I loved the soft look of this. But this is a wet ink, so you are going to want to let this dry before you go and try to put it together. So I just added this. You can see here I added this with some Stampin' Dimensionals, added myself a little gray granite ribbon, and then here on the inside, I'll show you the inside. I just stamped again in that basic gray. I have another layer of the basic gray there on with white on top. Beautiful, beautiful sympathy card and very, very easy to do. Now, I told you I had another technique. And to create this technique, what I did is I really wanted the white to come out bright white. Not soft like a shadow, but bright, because on a lemon, the pith of a lemon is very white, so I wanted it to pop. I have a piece of crushed curry cardstock here. By the way, if you need any of the measurements to my cards, I've got a free download for you that will go right along with it. Look, you're going to have my supply list, you're going to have the measurements, you're going to have photos. If you need to order any of the supplies, you can click right there to go to my online store. And if you need to come back for a refresher on how I did the whitewash technique, you can scan right there and rewatch the video. You'll find that at simplysimplestamping.com, so feel free to check that one out. I'm going to bring in my Sweet Citrus stamp set. This is a brand new one from our January through April mini catalog. It's an awesome catalog, and I'm crazy about fruit. That is my thing. I am a fruit fan. Guys, I'm going to start here with this is a two-step stamp. So I'm going to start with the inside of my fruit, and I'm going to ink that up in crushed curry ink. And I am simply going to stamp that. In fact, I think I'm going to stamp it this way. By the way, there's no right or wrong. But I'm going to stamp the inside of my lemons right there. Now with the outside, this is the outside stamp. So I'm going to ink this up. And by the way, it's the outside of the 3 lemons and then a full-size lemon right there. So it's got a little extra on there for us. So I'm going to ink that up. And this simply lays right on top. I can see right over that. We're going to give all of this a really good press. The colors are going to be so vibrant, but just wait till we add that craft white. There we go. That is our focal image. Now let's add some shaded spruce. We got to add a little bit of green in here. So we're going to come in and add some leaves. And I'm going to go ahead and add these. For this card, I think I want the white to be one of the last things I do. I don't want to run the risk of hitting the white with that green. No, that would not be good. So I'm just going to kind of give myself some burst of color right there. Now remember on our first card, we tapped and we created our own little ink pad, right? Well, this time I said I wanted this to be nice and bold. I'm going to take the refill now. And guys, I'm going to just go ahead and use this block. You would not need to have that big glob. I'm at one tiny little dot. This is not going to take much. So just that one little dot, and I'm going to come back in just a little bit there on my blender pen. And I am going to paint right inside. And you notice this now is going on much, much thicker. And what I love about that nice sharp tip right here. You can see I didn't do the greatest job stamping. Now with this, it doesn't matter because, you know, fruit's not always the same all the way around. And I know it looks a little bright right now, but just wait. We're going to let that dry. But when you use the refill, boy, it allows us to really get that ink on thick. Ooh, let's not forget the center of our lemons. Oh, this just makes me think of summertime, and the wind is howling outside, so that makes me very happy. I'm going to keep coloring here. Remember, we're using the refill to do our coloring. Remember, with a technique like this, less is more. You can always add more, but it's a little hard to take it away. In fact, as I was sitting here playing, a technique that kind of worked out well is when I loaded up my blender pen to just kind of tap on, get some of that ink off, and then come in and blend. And you can see these down here that have started to dry a little bit, looks a lot better. So yeah, it might come off a little strong at the beginning, but just keep going. It's going to dry really nice. Now on this solid lemon, there are some little dots. So I'm going to grab just the very tip of that blender pen, and I'm just going to go dot, 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 very gently, so we can add a little highlight now to the solid lemon. Very different than this card, right? Look at that. We have something really soft and we have something very vibrant. I'm going to move this away. Let me show you what else I did to my card. So in this stamp set, there was a little center for my lemons. Of course, keep in mind, it can be an orange, it can be a grapefruit, it can be whatever. But what I did is I just stamped that in the crushed curry around just to kind of fill in. And look, have a zesty birthday. I stamped that in the exact same way I did with my thank you card. I just stamped it there in the white ink. I added a little ribbon. This is the inside of my card. So I inked up just the lemon itself, added a little bit more of that green layered together. Gorgeous. And now it's cleanup time. So I will tell you, the first thing I do is I take my blender pen and I'm just going to kind of run it back and forth. Something else you can do, I'm just going to use the back of this, is you can run it along cardstock until it comes out clean. But I'm going to tell you, I have this blender pen. This one is the one that I use only for white because it takes a while to get all that craft ink out. Remember, it's really thick. So I prefer to just leave this marker as is, and you can put a piece of maybe washi tape around it. Honestly, I just recognize that as white, but you can just get as much of that off if you need to. And then of course, with that clear block, I've got just a tissue and we will wipe this off. I can now run this under the sink or on my chamois to get off anything extra. I'm cleaned up and I'm ready to move on. My friends, let me tell you, having a white craft pad is going to be such a game changer for you in your crafting because it can help you take a card that maybe just needs a little extra something, like either one of these, and adds that gorgeous shadow and pop to a card. Love this technique. I hope you do too. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, if you liked the video, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. And if you haven't subscribed, why not click the subscribe button? It's there waiting for you. YouTube will let you know whenever I'm back with a new video. And I'd love to have you join us here on the channel. Make it a great day, my friends. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.